she was with me. We were out there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and like randomly we look over and there's this hummingbird just like suspended in air. I've never seen a hummingbird that close. Hummingbirds are usually like, like zipping all over. This was it was like a drone. It was like just staring at us. And we were just like, oh my God, this is so weird. And we were like, that's him. Like just making sure like we got the spot.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for being here. I hope you don't mind me awkwardly sitting Indian style.
No.
I feel like a child.
Stay comfortable. Post-COVID world, anything goes.
This is pre-COVID too, but
yeah.
I'll leverage that if I have to. Thank you for being here. And as I mentioned before we started, it's kind of, we didn't really talk much about it, which is kind of cool to me. And the fact that you're so willing to talk about something like this. I mean, I find you hilarious, as do obviously many other people. So I think I just thought someone with your humor and insight that I'm sure I'm going to hear would be just a good conversation. And you did mention, just to start off, since this is Dead Talks, talking about death, you've had some loss in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have loss in your life, then you're not living.
So are you saying forced loss in your life?
Allegedly. No. I mean, I feel like I feel it's inevitable, and yeah. It would be weird if I knew somebody who didn't have loss in their life.
Yeah, which I guess those people are around. I've met a couple of them. I feel like they're living life. Sometimes I always thought losses can be a good thing in your life, even though it sucks.
Yeah.
Depending how you take it. But then I meet some people that haven't had significant loss in their life, and they're just living in somewhat bliss. Like they don't even know any better. So like, are you happier?
For now. But also I feel like that's also kind of like the people who are born in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They're like very rare. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, I was born here. And you're like, get out of here. No, you weren't. Really?
It's alien.
Yeah.
It's alien. Actually, people from LA get a bad rap, but it's usually the transients, which I think is pretty common practice. But people from LA usually are, the ones I've met, I like them.
Yeah. They know what's up.
I think so, right?
Well, I feel like they know how things are supposed to be. They're not trying to, prove something like, I'm from LA, That's what I done in LA. It's like, you're from Ohio, Becky. Like, shut up.
Yeah, Becky. Yeah. Of course, or my homie Jake, but I'm not going to bring him up again. So is any of those specific stand out? Any of those people that you've lost?
Well, I mean, I had a huge loss in 2021, last year.
Oh, that's recent.
Yeah, very recent, very sudden. A friend of mine, a partner of mine for tons of, off and on relationship-wise. We lived together for like, I don't even know, like 3, 4, 5 times. So we were technically like a very bittersweet relationship. Met in 2006 and were just kind of like joined at the hip from the get-go, really. Like, I remember being like very instantly attracted to this person. Like the first time I saw him, I was like, damn, okay. Just the aura, the presence, the style, the look. It was just something that I had never really seen before. Just kind of like this bad boy image, but like the sweetest person ever. So we started dating, and, like most relationships, especially, we started dating really pretty much before the recession hit. So, I mean, we were eating toast and eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, we really went through it. He was with me when I started stand-up, and then, like, throughout the years, like, all relationships do, there's like you grow apart, you fizzle out, but there was always something that kind of just connected us back together. I don't know what it was, but he was like my biggest critic, my muse, my friend, and was just so talented. And he was in music, like he had an ear for music, and he worked for, some some celebrities, some artists, and the last couple of years he had a battle with alcoholism.
Shit.
And so, and I kind of did too. Like when I first started doing stand up, I was getting in the clubs and like fucking going
I think
hard.
it's hard to avoid.
Huh?
How do you even avoid that?
You can, yeah, you're like, okay, and especially like when I started, it was like, okay, you have a 12:45 spot on a Tuesday, well, technically a Wednesday, and oh, sorry, but Chappelle bumped you, or we've all been bumped. We have to wait around, so now it's going into like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're hungry, and you're like, this is what I need to do, and I got to prove myself, and I got to pay my dues, and yeah, alcohol flows freely throughout the night. So there were definitely nights where I was just getting shit-faced. And I had to learn how to control that. And it got to a point with him where it just kind of was like a normal thing, like we'd go to a party and he'd show up late to help set up, but like start early on the drinking. And then everybody's at the party and he's like passed out on the floor. And we're like, everyone's like, oh,
Was this a regular thing before you guys even met? Was it happy to really start with your relationship?
I don't know, but I mean, like when we met, we were like in our early 20s, so it was like, oh yeah, we're just young and stupid. Yeah. And, there were several moments where I started seeing red flags around him. We were living together at the time, and I had just wrapped my first big show. It was a show that I developed at the Comedy Store. Then E bought it, and we taped it. It was like a huge thing. I was like a judge on the panel, and yeah, we're like taping the pilot, and it's open bar, and I'm like, be on your best behavior, so help me God. And I like look over, and he's gone because I brought him as my +1. And I remember somebody on the show came over and was like, I think your boyfriend's like passed out outside. And I'm like, perfect, great. Got him in an Uber, sent him home. Like an hour later, calls me and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at the show that you're supposed to be at. He's like, oh, sorry. I mean, it was just, and I'm not trying to like badmouth him or whatever, but it sucked, because it was like, I've worked so hard to like get to this place, and you can't even like hold it together for 1 fucking hour or 2 hours, however long. We got into a car wreck at one point because he had road rage and he was drinking and, fled the scene.
Okay.
And then, it just became just a problem. It was just every day. So the point where I said, if I stay in this, I'm not going to be okay. So I moved out and we remained friends. He had a whole group of just amazing friends that helped him whenever they could. If he ever lost a job, there was another friend who'd be like, hey, come work for me. And that's what really kind of pissed me off. He never had to like go out and apply for a job. He always had somebody who gave him a job, and some way or the other always fucked it up. And because of alcohol. And so during the pandemic, we remained friends, and it just got to the point where it was a mix of like the isolation of being alone in your apartment and, having a liquor store down the street right there, be conveniently there. And I mentioned something to like the group of friends, and I was like, I don't know if he's doing okay or not. There was a little bit of like, people were like wanting to check in. There were a lot of red flags of like, he would say something and we'd be like, what? Like, you haven't showered? Like what, what do you, how long? And the last time I saw him, I was the last person to see him alive. And that'll always stick with me because it was something that I'm sorry, I'm going to cry a little bit.
It's okay. Take your time.
It was something that I didn't see because the person who walked out to my car was not the same person that I knew. And he played it off as though, no, everything's fine. And you're looking at somebody and you're like, I know you're not okay. And I'm not going to like judge you or, you can talk to me. But it was just this denial and just, no, everything's fine. And I'm like, you're limping and you're overweight and like you're dirty. Like, I don't know who you are and you're in my car. And I just remember we went and I drove around. I had just got a new car and we took a little joyride and we're listening to music and talking about once COVID's over, what we're going to do and just catching up. And then I just remember dropping him off back at his apartment and he wouldn't get out of my car. And I just remember saying something like he just kind of stayed there and we kind of talked for a little longer. And it got to the point where I was like, get the fuck out of my car. Like, beat it. And I just remember going home and calling my friend at the time and being like, I'm really concerned. What do I do? Something's wrong. And it's just that gut feeling of like, if I don't do something or if he doesn't do something, this is going to end horribly. And she was like, here's some programs that he could like get into via Zoom. Like, you don't have to be in person, all that stuff. And I remember hanging up the phone with my friend at the time and then calling him back immediately and being like, here's a link. Here's, I'm really worried about you. I really want you to not die, pretty much. And then that weekend I went, me and my guy friends, we had planned a little birthday trip. My birthday was that following weekend. And then my friends was the following weekend of March. And we got there, we got into the Airbnb, we went to Paso Robles, we were doing wine tastings. We had like the whole weekend planned out. And I get a text. I went to bed that night, which is weird because I remember I have this scar on my leg from the night we got there. We'd all been having wine and nothing crazy, but I flew out of the bed. Like, I laid down in the bed and then I fell backwards. I can't explain it, but I fell backwards and hit my leg up against one of the like bed beams, posts. It was like this Napa Airbnb. So of course it has some haunted bed frame, some rich white lady bed frame, but it like busted my leg open.
Were you sleeping or you just?
No, I was like, I don't like, I'm trying to even figure out how I did. Like when you crawl into bed like a normal person, you get in, but I don't know if I like sat up and then leaned back and just lost my balance and fell back. But I think that was him knocking me out of the bed, letting me know that he had passed or something, because the next morning his mother DM'd me and I hadn't talked to her in years. And she's like, have you heard from him? We haven't, it's been a while. He's not picking up his phone, da, 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 da. And I was like, no, I saw him like a couple days ago. And to be honest, he doesn't look that good. So you should probably consider like maybe coming to get him, or I don't know, whatever the options are. And I left it at that. And then like it was probably like a couple minutes, but it probably felt like an hour or so. She DM'd me back and she said he's dead. And that was it. And I was like, during my vacation? And I just remember being like, what? And calling my friend who was friends with him as well. And she picks up and she's like, who told you? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, we're at his place right now. The coroner's going in there and getting him. And we didn't want to tell you because we knew you were on vacation. We didn't want this to ruin your vacation. And it was just such a shock because I was like, I just fucking saw him. I got off the phone with him. I sent him like links to help him. And And that was it. And it was just the hard, and it sucked because we couldn't be together. We couldn't, we had to be in our homes, and we had to like Zoom, and we had to like grieve, like not in a natural way. And I just remember we all got together and did a like memorial service for him. And it was so lovely. And, just remembering the good times, and and we played like his playlists, and there was a slideshow, and he was just a good guy. And he was so talented, and he just always just, I don't know if it was just doubt or what. I still, to this day, I can't process, like, there was always an excuse for something. Like, I can't do this because, and I can't do this because. And it was just like, come on, we're all doing it, And then we went, and when we got his ashes, we went to our favorite like camping trip, and we did like this little ceremony over the river that he loved. And yeah, it's just something that I've never really like, I've spoke about it before, but like, this is like, I'm, speaking about it again a year later. And it's just something that I always think about, because he was just such a good dude who just, threw in the towel.
Yeah, it's only been a year, which is not that long of a time. And you even said it didn't feel like you had a proper natural way of grieving. You said it's because we said it was a prime COVID time of year. I guess a year ago.
I mean, it was March of 2021.
Yeah, so things are still pretty hot then. So what do you feel like you've done? Is like at this point, is it something you kind of just like move forward on, or do you think there's reflections that you've had since you said this?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, there's little moments where we were very like, I love coincidences, and I love little, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not very like, oh, there's one maker, all that kind of stuff. So like, I'll see little things in nature every now that like remind me of him, or, I'm in a relationship now that, that is very healthy and good. And I didn't think I was going to have that after him. Cause I was just like, how the fuck do I date again? How do I, invest in someone again, and
well, in the moment, doesn't it? If you think about how you felt then to where you are now, you're in a healthy relationship. Because I can relate to that. We don't have to get into that about my situation, but when you're in the moment with something, the possibility of healing just seems impossible in the moment, right?
Oh God,
it's so different from where you are then to now.
I mean, I haven't cried. Like, I just got emotional then thinking about it, but it's like, I just remember just being so just broken. Cause I feel like no matter, especially in entertainment, and I feel like in comedy, and it's very rare to find a good core group of people, good friends. And this town throws you so many curveballs, and like, oh, I'm up for this job. Just kidding, exactly. And you're just like, but wait, so many moments of just like, you're so close, and it's just heartbreaking to know how much people loved him and were like rooting for him. And it just sucks. I have those days now where, like I'll see something, or I'll go to like, like a party or something where there's like a DJ or someone playing their music, and I'm like, God damn, he could have been doing that. He would have done such a better job,
Right.
Or like,
Has he pushed you out of the bed anytime
just like,
recently?
well, like is what?
Has he pushed you out of the bed again anytime recently?
No, God, no. But I mean, like, we had when we went to the campsite to go scatter his ashes, we got there so early to get the spot that we always got, So my friend and I, the one who picked up the phone and was like, who told you? she was with me. We were out there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and like randomly we look over and there's this hummingbird just like suspended in air. I've never seen a hummingbird that close. Hummingbirds are usually like, like zipping all over. This was it was like a drone. It was like just staring at us. And we were just like, oh my God, this is so weird. And we were like, that's him. Like just making sure like we got the spot. Loved space, loved like meteor showers and anything space related, So I remember while we were there, we saw this crazy like
just trying to time it up over there.
Meteor, I know, right? Yeah. Saw this meteor just like on fire, just this fireball just go across the sky, and I was like, "Are we okay? Like, should we go to higher ground?" And like, I like to the point where I was like, "We should go into town and check the news." And no one said anything. It was just this big fiery red ball that shot across the sky. It was so crazy. So, I mean, I see little moments like that, and I appreciate them, and I accept them, and I acknowledge them, which I feel like is a part of like my healing.
How do you feel about how do you feel right now talking about it? Like you said, you haven't really spoke about it.
No, I feel fine. I mean, I talked about it on my podcast back, like literally the week after it happened, just because I felt like if I didn't talk about it, it was, because I like being vulnerable, and I think being vulnerable and emotional is healthy, especially in a field of just dude bros and, I'm fucking crushing it, okay, relax,
I feel like with comedy, I feel like so many, I mean, in life, in art, the art world in general, I feel like so much comedy comes from traumatic experience, especially in the I'm not in the comedy world like you are, but still I don't understand it, but does it not come from a dark place a lot of the time? Like a lot of these comedians?
For sure.
So I wonder
think
why,
so.
Do a lot of comedians keep it in besides in their jokes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. But I feel like if you keep it in, that's when it can mutate.
Oh yeah, into something horrible.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that's why we're here.
Well, and it's also like, this past year too, we've had so many just die. It's like
comedians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
Just left and right. Like I felt like every week the marquee was like R.I.P. so-and-so, R.I.P. so-and-so, make God laugh. Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh God, not make God laugh. Oh God.
What do you think God's sense of humor is?
I don't know.
Me either.
I think it's a good one because I was in Joshua Tree this past weekend, and I looked up and I saw a rock, and it was a big rock, and it was just the shape of an ass, just a big crack down the middle, just a big butt, and I was like, that's funny.
That's God's stand up right there.
And I feel like God does have a sense of humor, but
I mean, he must. This fucking world we're living in, I think it's hilarious.
I hope so.
Yeah,
he's going through a really dark phase right now.
He's regrows as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious when you spoke about it a week after on your podcast. What do you notice? Do you notice anything different in yourself from speaking about it now to that first week in regards to where you were? I'm sure there's a difference, obviously, but in the way you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got. It was a wake up call for me for sure. I looked at it at the point of I need to take care of myself and make sure I'm okay. Like maybe cut back on the drinking. And that's the thing. It's like the drinking was obviously it's a depressant, but it's also a way to numb pain, And when you're going through so much pain, it's just so much easier just to like pick up a bottle and drown your sorrows.
Yeah.
And I remember when COVID hit, I was just like, well, I'll have a box of wine tonight.
Specifically a box?
A box.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, straight up a good old Trader Joe's boxed cab, and it was like, oh, well, it's 4 bottles of wine and this will be over in 2 weeks. So what a great little staycation. And then you're like,
something about boxed wine that makes it more depressing than bottled wine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's okay, though.
It's, you're just kind of like, well, I guess I'm going to watch Tiger King tonight. And then it lasted and it kept going and it kept going and things were getting canceled. Events that were like coming up in the future were getting canceled. And you're just kind of like, oh shit, like how long is this?
Yeah.
And I remember COVID hit right on my birthday. Not like right on it, but it was like, you know, I remember planning that whole week of like, okay, I'm going to do this on Wednesday. I think my birthday was on a Friday, or I think it was a Friday or Saturday of that year. And I had just gotten back from the road. I was in New Orleans and Houston. And that's when people were like, oh, yeah, no, it's like bad. Like people are getting sick. And we were like, oh, well, whatever. We had hand sanitizer at our meet and greet. We're good.
Just spraying it on them. Like,
Oh, yeah. And I remember coming back home and I remember feeling like, oh, I have really bad bronchitis. And I got a Z-Pack from my doctor. I was like, yeah, I'm going back on the road. I need to like just knock this out. And I took the 5 pills and then it lasted for like 4 more days. And I was like, oh shit. And I remember being like sick, but not like I can't breathe, all that kind of stuff. But,
Right.
And then the Comedy Store was like, the shows in the main room are canceled. We're moving everything to the OR. We're splitting it up. And then it was just like, everything's done. And then the tour was over.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're dealing with that as well. You're like, okay, well, there goes all of my income. There goes all of my work. Now I'm just stuck in my fucking apartment. And, you know, it wasn't like a 9 to 5. I couldn't like zoom in and be like, hey, guys, okay, this is what we're doing, moving ahead. No, it was like, I don't have a job. I don't have anything. And so start drinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you get the box wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was there's a whole aftermath from, I think, effect a lot of people didn't calculate in regards to the shutdowns. And I think we realize that now, the effect it had on people.
Yeah.
Besides the income and the work and that stress, obviously. Like
It was mental health. Yeah. I don't even remember talking about mental health before COVID.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think it's a good thing. Obviously, people are talking about it now, but it's unfortunate that's the way it happened. A lot of like in isolation, if you're not, I don't know, it's when you're isolated, you know, all the stimulus around, you're by yourself, you're like forced with your thoughts. And that's when you start going to a place and your true colors kind of come out and the true mental health, I think, really pops out. So, I mean, it's sad because I think suicide was astronomically up.
Yeah.
Suicide was astronomically up. In regards to that, was he, I know when you saw him the last night, you saw some signs that clearly he wasn't okay, but was he suicidal prior? Was there anything else that was kind of showing those flags?
There wasn't anything like showing, but it was like there were signs. Like he would say things that we would be like, come on, dude. Like, don't say, like he'd say stuff like, well, if I die, I die. Whatever. Yeah. You know? And we were kind of like, ha 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 ha. Ha. But I mean, yeah, those were like definitely red flags because you didn't know what was going on. There was and we don't know. I don't think, I'm not going to say what I think happened, but I just think there was a mix of medication and alcohol that you're not supposed to mix stuff with,
Yeah.
And he would do that. And I remember we'd have arguments where I'd be like, hey, like, see this bottle? It says, don't drink alcohol. And he'd be like, oh, well, okay. And like, take it anyways. And I'd be like, what are you doing? So, but yeah, I mean, it just sucks because he knew like everybody. I mean, I would bring him around to the store every now and then. But it was bad. It was bad for me and it was bad for him. And it was like a beautiful toxic relationship because we liked each other.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I would stay out late because I knew when I got home, he would be passed out. So I would stay out and hang out with my friends because I'd be like, I don't want to go home to that,
Yeah.
So when I finally broke it off, that was probably maybe 5 years ago when I got my own place, we still maintained that friendship. It was weird because I was like, I'm never not going to have you in my life because you were such a big part of it, you know? And now I don't have him in my life because of it.
Yeah, I don't. How do you? I'm having trouble myself deciding between that. Like when you have a relationship that may not or has that that chaotic nature to it, but you still want to be with that person. It's a weird. It's a weird thing, even though the things you do together aren't healthy for you, but you still want that in a weird way. It's like, how do you know? Because it's interesting when you just said you still want them in your life because of how important they were. But how do you know the difference between, even though this isn't a relationship podcast, how do you know the difference of when you truly need to part ways and when it's okay to keep it close? I guess if you find just being friends, then that's that.
Yeah, I mean
easier.
that's the crazy find the balance part of it, because you're just like, I like you and I think you're great, but like I just don't think. And I think for me it was like something. It was something internal for me. Was just like, you got to get out of this. For some weird reason, I put a chart up in my brain.
A chart?
A chart, yeah. I charted in my brain. I put a chart up with a CH. I put a chart in my brain that was like, okay, I'm going to give you 3 chances. And the first one was the show. And I was like, strike 1. The second one was the crash, which was strike 2. And then the third one was the constant, like, falling and falling in out of the bed in the middle of the night and urinating and that
stuff.
And I was just kind of like, okay, no.
Yeah.
And that all happened in the span of like 2 to 3 weeks, each one of those.
All 3 strikes, 3 weeks.
And I was like, you know what? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a smart decision. What else are we supposed to do? Okay, when these keep going on and hope it gets better?
But what's great, well, I was like, if I don't get out of this, there's like, I also moved out to help him, I was like, maybe this will kind of like waken you up in a weird way where, hey, he left, but I've also left before and we've gotten back together, whatever. But, it was, and that's the crazy thing. He helped me move. He helped me move into my new place. And that's just the kind of person he was. Just a good guy, Yeah,
it makes it even worse when you see someone going through their own things and it seems like he was loved, like you said. So it kind of like it fucks with you.
Yeah.
It's like it seemed like this guy had all the resources and all the love around him, but then there's just excuse me, there's always that internal battle that we know nothing about. I can see how that drives you nuts being the last one that saw him, because I feel like it's like what I've heard before. It seems like it's instantaneous, even though it's not warranted. There's like that weird instantaneous guilt because it's like, I was the last person that saw him.
Right.
So it's like, you got to let that go. Like, do you feel like you have? Not that you haven't told me you feel guilty. I just feel like that's common.
Yeah. I feel like I definitely I did have a little bit of guilt, which I guess still kind of weighs on me because we are very punctual. I don't know if you noticed, but I got here right at 2.
I was impressed. Yeah, I did. Believe me. And the phone call came. Right? I was like, I was anticipating. I was like, L.A. I haven't heard from him. I was like,
I am so. It's like being punctual is like such a thing for me. I hate unless it's like something out of my control. And if that's the case, it's like, oh, traffic. Then it's like I'll be there at 2:05 or something. Right. But I try so hard to like be on time. And that was the thing. He was too. He was just like, party starts at 8. I'm here at 7:59. We're going to set up, if we got to be here, we're going to be there on time. If we got to get tickets for anything, we're going to get them, Yeah. And I remember pulling up that day, in my car, and he wasn't out there. And I was like, all right, dude, it's 1:00. You said be here at 1:00, and I'm here, and you're not here. And then 1:02, then 1:03, then 1:05. And I think it was like 1:07, 1:08 is when he finally came out. And I was just like, what's going on? And I knew right then, I was like, something's up. He's not here yet. And I still have that guilt of, had I parked my car, pushed the gate code, and gone upstairs and seen what was in the apartment, that's when I would have been like, call the group. We're dragging him out, sending him to rehab, something.
Yeah, it doesn't work out like that.
Because, I mean, it's just, what they saw when they went in, I'm not going to go into details, was just like apocalyptic.
Yeah, I wonder when these conversations, because I've had other episodes of people talking about suicide, and it's like, for anyone that's listening, I'm like, is this conversation I'm hoping is, I feel like naturally it's for the people to be aware for the signs, but then it's also, there's only so much the people you can do.
Yeah.
Even if you hammer it, like you could try all these different tactics. At the end of the day, it's for that person. They have to figure it out. You can do everything quote unquote right, and then they still might do that. So it's like, I don't know if this is more of a conversation for anyone that's feeling like they want to go in that direction. Hopefully not, to realize themselves that the people around you maybe care the more than you think. So it's like, I don't know what the answer is or what you do around the conversation of suicide for people to shift that direction, because like you feel like you can supply the people around them so much to help them, but it's like sometimes that's not enough. It's just up to the person that's feeling depressed or whatever.
And it's definitely a thing of you always hear, if you what is it? It's not, if you see something, say something. That's
stranger danger, no,
terrorism or something. But it's like, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I feel like we live in a very, I don't know, like prideful kind of everyone. Like, I feel like
individualistic kind of, I can handle this myself.
Weakness is bad kind of a thing. And it's, hey, I'm not okay.
I think that veil's kind of getting a little bit more and more.
I think so
transparent. Too. And my thought is, I know sometimes this doesn't help either. I feel like maybe it's good for people to show without like prying. Maybe show them, hey, if you need, like, show that you, like you said, that you can talk, like you can talk to me. That, right? Like, I wonder if we need to say that more rather than assume that this person knows that, because then there's that like shame, or some people don't want to be a burden to other people. But like, how do we let them know, like, you can come to me if you need something. Yeah. And I don't know if that's going to help, but ultimately it comes back to just, I don't know, we got to check in on each other.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel since everything happened, I've definitely learned, this was the first big grief that I had, losing somebody that was really close to me. And I've learned peace, and I've learned the knowing of him wherever he is now, being in a better place. I had a grandmother too, that my grandmother passed away back in, I want to say 2018, I believe 2018 or 2018, I believe. And that was the first time that I had actually seen somebody die in front of me.
Oh shit. That's a whole nother
which
level.
Was different. Gruesome at the same time, because I had to take her off life support. It was my sister and my brother, and we were there, and like having to watch that was like really shocking, because like in a movie, they're like, they do the plug, and it's like, it's good night, oh, sweet dreams. Flights of angels,
It's not anything like that.
This was not the case. No. It was lots of sounds and screams, and it was awful. And that still haunts me. But it was it's somebody old, and there was no way of keeping her alive. Yeah. And my brother, who was in the army, he's done some tours in Afghanistan. He was like, this is what death looks like. And we were like, it is? This is not cute at all. What happened? Like, I was wanting like Rose in Titanic, like, in her bed with all of her pictures all around her bed. But no, that's not what we got. But it was a different type of grief. Like, it was just like, that was just sudden and jarring and like in our face. And this was just like, God, I just dropped you off. And it really made me think about life and being like, when you say goodbye to somebody, like, this could be the last time I see you. You know what I mean? I had a friend of mine this past weekend that we grew up together in Texas, and like one of my best friends as a kid, and I hadn't seen her, and we became separated over time, and every now and then we'll chime in and say hi on social media or whatever. But I went out to the outlet malls and like outside of Palm Springs, and I'm walking around and I see her and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it was so wild. And just that like exhilaration of seeing somebody you haven't seen in like a decade and like hugging them. I just remember like hugging her and like not being able to let go. And, you know, I felt apologetic. I was like, I'm so sorry that like I haven't been around. And she's like, don't worry, you know, she's married now and has her own life. But I was just like, please, let's not let this time go by as long as it did, because you never know.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a cliche and it sounds morbid as hell, but it's like shit's real. Shit's real. I feel like we do things in such a routine way. When we see people, we hang out, we see them all the time, and it's like I get it. Sometimes it's hard to have that energetic like excitement, but if we look at it like that really makes a difference because you fucking don't. You had a firsthand experience of that. And it's important that you see it like that. But it's hard. We all have our own shit. Sometimes we're distracted in the moment. We all get this stuff going on. So like, how do we just bring it back to where we are now? And all the other stuff is outside of us right now.
Well, and I'm also like a time heals kind of a person. Like, I definitely have people that I have disassociated myself with just because I don't know, just because of
fuck them.
Huh?
Just because of fuck them?
Did I fuck them?
No.
I've disassociated myself because I fucked them.
And I sharded in my brain.
And that was it. No, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I feel like friendships grow and friendships change. And there's certain friendships that I've had that I'm just kind of like, you know what? Like,
that was then.
Go work on you. And maybe in a year or two or whenever, we can get back together and everything. But I feel like you're a lot better off without me right now. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm like this perfect person or whatever, but it's like, it's probably best for those people to kind of just figure themselves out rather than like kind of have me around, and I can't babysit. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I feel like a lot of those relationships happen naturally. You kind of just naturally do your course without having to say anything, which makes it a lot easier. I don't want to have that conversation. So how you feel now? A year later, you feel like you're good?
Oh yeah. I feel a lot better. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have moments where I'm like, damn it, why aren't you here?
Yeah.
You know?
That's not going to not happen.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, he loved RuPaul's Drag Race. Loved RuPaul's Drag Race. We would talk and we would call each other and be like, who do you think's going home this week? Like, it was like our fantasy football. It was like, we'd be like, oh, so-and-so's lost. They've been in the bottom 3 times this, you know, season. They're going home. And, oh, they didn't go home. Or, did you see what she walked out on the runway in? Oh my God, you know, and it was so much fun. And like, we knew stats, we knew everything. And, you know, I have this show coming out on Saturday where I actually worked with some of the drag queens from Drag Race. And, you know, him not being there to see it is like, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting with time. It's like time heals, but it doesn't, you know, it's always gonna be there. I think it just kind of gets a little easier, hopefully, in some ways, and you learn to evolve with it. Otherwise, what else? Your life goes on.
It does.
It does. To say, but I don't know what to say.
I mean, talk about a memory of a person who, not just me, so many people will carry with them. I mean, just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this town, that's the funny thing too, is like nobody had a bad thing to say about him. Just the best character, would drop everything in a heartbeat to help you. Like, what do you need? I got this, what I can, you know. someone needed help moving like in Lake Arrowhead, and he like drove out there, drove the U-Haul, like packed, like just if anybody needed anything, he was just always there. And nobody, I mean, the only bad reputation was his drinking. They're like, but like no one was like, what a dick, what an asshole. Oh, that guy is a piece of shit. No, there was no bad things said about him at all.
Yeah, it makes it so much more of it's frustrating, confusing. I don't know. Life is, maybe it's God's sixth sense of humor, like we said, but it doesn't make sense when someone has all that and you can't speak poorly on them. Not that it makes other suicides or deaths like a hierarchy because they were shitheads, but it's like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, I feel I definitely hear him through music. There will be like, it's really weird. There's a song, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. It always comes on, and every time I hear it, I'm like,
Tim,
show yourself,
Did a hummingbird flash past your face?
yeah.
Has
But
he made
like,
it in your stand-up?
or like I'll be in the car and like I'll have like Sirius XM. We love Sirius XM Chill, and shout out to Chill on Sirius XM. But like, a song will come on and we'll be like, oh damn. And so like I'll feel it and be like, damn, I hope you can hear this. And so there's definitely little moments of like of humor and song that kind of play into like knowing he's still around.
Yeah, that's the meaning we give it. And it's important. I think it's important to hang on to. It's going to give you those emotional tear jerker moments, but like that's what it's about. Like that's all we have left of our loved ones. So it's like we got to keep them alive somehow.
Yeah.
But Just, I want to thank you for, like you said, the importance of being vulnerable. Like
You have to.
You have to. So
You've got. I mean, if you're not crying, are you even human? It's like
in this town of soul sucking.
I know. I mean, if you see somebody crying or going through it, don't be afraid to ask if you can do anything. I was pumping gas on the way over here, and this guy came over to me, and he was just like, "Hey, man, you got 50 cents?" I was like, "Take $1 here, go." Like
go crazy.
Just those little things like really can impact somebody. And that's what I love doing what I do, is because in my head, I'm just living my life and, telling jokes and making people feel good, but you don't really have a sense of like the impact that can have on somebody. Like I'll post something. I mean, my podcast, I started it back this past March, and I just get strangers DMing me that are just like, thank you so much for doing what you do. And I'm like, really? But I mean, if I can do that to anybody and help somebody's day be better or brighter or whatever, then I know I'm doing my job. At the end of the day, I feel like humanity humanity's like the job we're supposed to do. Just be good to one another. It's not hard. And
like you said, it's the little. That's one thing I learned from my dad in different ways. But like the little things in life tend to be sometimes the most important. And those little things you can do for someone, you don't know the impact it can have. Like you
absolutely,
real like littlest thing. You might
it trickles down,
and you may never know that it even affected that person. But like, just try to be good. We're gonna have our moments. I have my my shadows, blah blah blah. But like, just be your good. Even when you're in, I don't know where I heard it from. I'm going to butcher it, but plainly said, it was like, even if you're feeling shitty, just project happiness and try to lift other people up. Even if they don't have to project what you're feeling, and you can still lift people up. At the end of the day, let's just lift each other up. It's really not, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's gonna make the world a better place. And we're always looking at, even I'm looking at my podcast, this or that. It's like we're looking at massive numbers. I gotta have 20, 50,000, 1 million people, but it's like
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Does not care at all. I mean, I have to have those days too where I'm just like, am I charting on iTunes? Oh God. And then you're just like, what am I doing? Yeah. How many followers do I have? Who cares? It's all that, and that's the problem. It's like the validity that people need now is it's brainwashing. Yeah. It's toxic.
It's fucking toxic, man.
Yeah.
And it's like I catch myself in those moments, and like what you just said, it's like those, I don't know, if we are talking stats and this and that about whatever you're working on or selling, it's like you do have that core group of, even if it's 1,000 people or 500 or 100 or 10, it's like it is affecting someone. You're doing something.
Have you had to check on anybody on Instagram?
What do you mean? Check what? If I'm misunderstanding.
We're like, and this I think it's like pandemic related in a sense of like I've watched several people on social media just kind of like go through it, and you're just kind of like, this isn't the person I knew. Like, are you okay?
Like you're seeking for the validity on social media.
I mean,
is that what you're saying?
There have been times where I've just been like, just start an OnlyFans already. My God, you're a great person.
Yeah, social media is great in so many ways, but I got it. It's a dark spiral sometimes. I catch myself still looking at things. I'm like, why am I absorbing? This is hurting me.
Yeah.
This isn't helping me.
Yeah. Oh, look, 2 hours flew by and I'm scrolling on my phone.
I'm already watching the Dahmer show and that's fucking me up enough. I don't need social media. Have you started watching that show?
I started watching it. I just finished episode 1. I'm starting episode 2. But yeah, everyone's saying it's pretty good.
I mean, I forget the actor's name. He's
Evan Peters.
Yeah, he's great in American Horror Story, but like he does a pretty. I watched another interview of actual Jeffrey Dahmer. I was like, oh God, he really kind of nailed it.
Do you remember that? Are you old enough to remember that?
No, I was born in '89. So when was his reign? Till it was into the '90s. I
think it was 94, 95. So
yeah, no, I was in Staten Island doing whatever the hell I was doing.
I know it's funny because my boyfriend's just like, who's Jeffrey Dahmer? And I'm like, oh my God. Oh,
it's the secretary.
There's an Amber Alert about to go off and it's going to be my fault. No, but because he was born in 87. So he was from like the South and his parents are, Southern, and just, I'm sure they were like, you know what? We don't want to expose our child to Jeffrey Dahmer. Meanwhile, my family's like, oh my God, he ate his heart, and I'm like, what? That happened. I was like 14 or 15 when that happened. I just remember being like, and I just remember like the political, like Tonight Show, David Letterman, everything, they were making jokes about it. And it's wild. It's wild.
It's crazy. I mean, I obviously knew about him. I didn't live through it like that, but yeah, that's just giving me agita, as they say in Italian dialect. But anyway, you guys can Google agita, try to spell it. But Justin, thank you so much for being here.
For sure.
It's really cool to actually meet you in person.
Yeah, same.
And I don't know if this is going to drop after your show drops on Saturday, but if you want to plug anything you want about the show or yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be streaming. I wrote a show called Huluween Dragstravaganza, which comes out October 1st. It'll be screening and available all October for Hulu's Huluween programming. And it's a bunch of drag queens and Halloween. It's amazing. And I also have a podcast called Just Sayin with Justin Martindale, and it's way fun.
There we go. What's better than drag queens and Halloween?
Nothing.
Box of wine?
No.
Second, third
maybe?
place? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's better. Where's the drag bingo? Is that
Hamburger Mary's?
Hamburger Mary's.
Yeah.
I tied with someone one time, and I haven't gone back since. I need to redeem myself.
I live right by there, so if you ever want to go,
100%.
It's pretty fun.
It's awesome. I can't believe I only went once.
And you get to throw shit at people, which is really fun.
Anything.
Oh, well, maybe you're not supposed to throw things, but I grabbed a napkin dispenser and chucked it. So that's why I haven't been asked back. So.
There we go. All right, I'm going to go back to Hamburger Mary's. Yeah, that was a blast. All right, well, plug in Hamburger Mary's. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. And another episode of Dead Talks. Until next time, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.